This is a quick lesson on what scales you can use to play over different chords. The first thing you need to understand is that chords and scales are not the same thing. All right, you don't play a C minor 7 chord, and you don't play a C dominant scale. You've got to know the difference between the two and then scale to play over which chord. So let's start first with triads. First you need to know major is a 1, 3, 5. Major. Minor is 1, flat 3, 5. That's really all we're going to be concerned with right now. There are augmented and diminished triads. We're not going to be too concerned with those. 7 chords, you have major 7, which is 1, 3, 5, 7. You have dominant 7, or just known as the 7th chord, which is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. And you have minor 7, which is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. When you're figuring out which scales you can use, you need to look at the chord tones and match them to the scale tone. This can be very complicated. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. So let's look at the major triad. Major triad is 1, 3, 5. So there's a bunch of things you can use. You can use a major scale. Major scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you look at your chord tones, you have a 1, you have a 3, you have a 5. Those all match. For minor, let's scroll this down a little bit. Minor, if you look at this, is right here. You can use minor scale if you wanted to, because that has 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. So those also match. These scale tones match. Now there are a whole bunch of other choices you can also use for these chords. You can also use pentatonic scales. You can do major pent, which is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Again, it matches your triads, matches your 1, 3, and 5, match your major triad. In minor, you can use the minor pent, which is 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. And again, if you look right here, you've got your 5, your flat 3, and your 1, which that all matches the same chord tones inside your minor scale. Are there other scales you can use? Of course there are other scales you can use, but for the purposes of what we're doing here at School of the Arts, really you need to know about major triad, minor triad, and understand that these are the basic scales that you can use with each. So here's your major triad, you can use major scale, major pentatonic. Here's your minor triad, you can use minor scale, you can use minor pentatonic. There are a whole bunch of other things you could use, but for right now we're not going to worry about that. Let's talk about major 7 chords. A major 7 chord is 1, 3, 5, 7. So you can, of course, use a major scale that has all the correct chord tones. It's got your 1, 3, 5, and 7. You could also use major pentatonic, which is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. As you can see, major pentatonic is a major scale just without the 4 and the 7. So those two will work with each other because all these chord tones are covered over here in both of these. Now look, you're not using the 7 here, but you're not using a bad note. You're not going to use a note that's going to clash with that. For example, you would do not use minor, because that's got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. If this is our triad we're trying to play with, major 7, this note would clash. This would be a bad note. Let's make that red. This and both of these would be bad notes because they're going to clash. The flat 3 would work against the natural 3. The flat 6 is real close to the 5. It's a half step away, and the flat 7 is a half step away from the natural 7. So those notes would clash. That's why it's better to use these, because these are going to sound consonant. These are going to sound good. All right, with a dominant, you can totally use major pentatonic. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now, the 6 could clash with the flat 7. These two might not work together. But weirdly, over dominant, a natural 6 sounds really nice. It just depends. It's all about context. Really, before we go on, it's all about the style of music you're playing and how you phrase or use each pitch. You know, there are players who famously take wrong note solos. They make all the wrong notes sound right because they use rhythm so well that you don't notice that it's a wrong note. The preferred scale for dominant, or one of the easiest scales, is Mixolydian. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. The scale degrees over here, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, perfectly align with the scale degrees with the scale. Mixolydian. Those work together really well. For minor, you can use several choices. You can use your minor pent, which is 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. That's one good choice. You can also just use a minor scale, which is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And you could also use Dorian Mode, which is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. This has nice scale tones that match the chord tones. 1, flat 3, 5, 7, they perfectly match up. Same thing. Minor pentatonic, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, that matches up real nicely. Minor scale, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Again, this all matches up nicely. So your scale tones are going to sound nice with your chord tones. This is a reverse context, so this is going from scale to chords. So major or Ionian scale will work with major triads. Mixolydian mode will work with dominant, and it might work with major chords. It just depends on the context. That's why the little asterisk is there. Some songs you can play Mixolydian over major, and it sounds great. Some songs it doesn't work. Dorian works over minor 7 and minor triads. And then your natural minor scale, or your regular minor scale, also works over minor 7 and minor triads. The thing you need to think about is matching scale tones to the chord tones.